Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So, let me make sure I'm up first. Let me check my sound. My sound has done bad things with me for the last few episodes. So, let's check sound. And great. Yeah, good, great. Hope everyone is doing okay. It is 1:18 p.m. on a Sunday. I don't think I would typically be doing videos today, but it's a lazy Sunday. My wife's not feeling well. She's in bed. And so, like most people, can't get the mic right. Most people, when their spouse is in bed not feeling well, say do the news. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the news. And to be fair, this is not actually the news. This is something that took place 2 years ago. But I'm showing it because I love stuff like this. It's interesting. And so I'm showing it because I think it's interesting. So Ed Schultz is the gentleman from MSNBC that was forced out. Ed was a lefty. He was a lefty's lefty. And Ed stayed true to his shape. When Scott Walker was attacking unions, Obama couldn't be bothered to get out of bed, but guess who was there? Ed Schultz. Ed Schultz was on the ground fighting with labor, fighting with the unions to try to get Scott Walker out of that seat and to protect those unions. When TPP came up, guess who's talking about it? Ed. Ed was the guy that was bringing up the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Ed was the guy that was bringing this stuff on MSNBC. Ed was also the guy that MSNBC put weight on to not talk about Sanders, going so far as to squashing a story about Sanders coming out with his election campaign. It's amazing when you hear Ed talk about it. But nevertheless, he said they forced him out, and he thinks in a large part because of his unabashed support of Sanders when the network clearly was for Clinton. Ed was having a conversation with Katrina, Hovel, I may be mispronouncing her name, but in this conversation, Ed is talking about the Clinton campaign and this use of weaponizing Russia in order to attack Donald Trump. Now, I've shown videos in the past where the WikiLeaks documents, the Podesta emails, going back all the way to 2015, where the people were telling the Clinton campaign to use Putin to attack Trump. Essentially slay Donald Trump with his bromance with Putin because Donald Trump said he wanted to be in some way conciliatory with Russian President Vladimir Putin. You go back further, shattered. Hillary Clinton losing, famously losing, embarrassingly losing. So embarrassing was this loss, so overwhelming was this loss, so fantastic and humiliating was this loss, that on the night where people usually come out to say, I've lost, I failed miserably, I've humiliated and embarrassed myself before 300 million people, and to be honest, for the rest of the world. You win, I lose, the presidency is yours. Clinton didn't come out that night. There were tales of what took place that night in the Clinton camp. There are tales. They're unsubstantiated, but they're tales. You can imagine what was taking place in the Clinton camp on the night that Hillary Clinton lost that race. And the media, being extremely sexist, didn't bother to bitch and moan about the fact that Hillary Clinton didn't come out that night. If there was any other man, those people would have, oh, how dare he not come out and say that he's lost. How dare he not come out and give a succession speech. They would have howled and bitched and moaned. Imagine if Hillary Clinton won the election and Donald Trump didn't come out that very same night to say, I failed, I've lost, you've won. But they gave her a pass. They gave her a complete pass. Nevertheless, eventually she comes out. The question here, and the conversation here that I kind of want to bring up, is the weaponization of Russia. In the book Shattered, immediately after Hillary Clinton lost, within a day or so, once she gathered her marbles and put herself back together and put on her face that she was going to interact with the public with, she told her communications campaign that it wasn't me, it wasn't my fault, it was Russia, it was Comey, it was that fucking Bernie Sanders, and you need to get out there and make sure the world knows that it was Trump and Russia that cost me this election. It wasn't my own failings. It was Trump and Russia. The book Shattered demonstrates this extraordinarily well, that the Russia stuff was this campaign tactic to try to obfuscate blame from Hillary Clinton. Now, whether you want to say it was coordinated with the rest of the Democratic Party, whether you want to say it was coordinated with the rest of the media, I don't think so. I don't think it needs to be. Maybe. I don't think it needs to be. I think everyone has their own specific dog in the hunt, and their specific dog in the hunt allowed them to take this narrative and blow it to the rooftops. Democrats have no paradigm to which they lost. So if you tell them that Russia has something to do with it, it fits into their paradigm and it allows their failings of the world or their own ideas of the world to be assuaged. Now, from the standpoint of the media, they love this idea of Trump and Russia because it puts asses in seats. The president of the United States as a foreign agent? What? Come back here for every hour on the hour and we'll give you some new unsubstantiated tale about Trump and Russia. Everybody has a dog in the hunt. And the Democratic Party, of course, they just want to obfuscate their own failings and fuck-ups. They don't want to talk about the failings. They want to talk everything about Trump and Russia so they don't have to deal with their own issues and why they lost 1,100 seats, how they lost the House, the Senate, Supreme Court, and how they lost the presidency to reality show hosts. Everybody has a dog in the hunt. Ed, in this case, is having a conversation before the election. This conversation takes place in September 2016. And he's essentially saying, like, this looks bad. They're weaponizing Russia. And it doesn't look like Hillary Clinton is even getting a bump from weaponizing Russia in this case. And they're using this in the same way that people have used Russia all the time. Tie your opponents to Russia. That way you don't necessarily have to engage their political arguments. You can just call them a Russian agent, Russian bot. And you can essentially be xenophobic in regards to your campaign. So let's take a look at this. Shout out to friend of the show, Laura Steiner. I have no idea what the hell that was. Shout out to the show, Laura Steiner. Laura put this on the Facebook page. I don't see why she would be not okay with me using this. She put it on the Facebook page for everybody to see. So I'm going to use this clip. I think this clip is awesome. This is Ed Schultz with Katrina Vanden Heuvel, editor and part owner of The Nation. I've seen her on The Nation before. I've seen her in interviews. Her last name I have a hard time pronouncing. So, Ed Schultz, Katrina, editor of The Nation, talking about Russia, Trump, Democrats, Clinton, and their use of the stuff to try to cover their own failings. Let's take a look.
Good to have you with us on this Monday edition. Ed Schultz news and commentary from the nation's capital. Watching the mainstream media lather up this story about Russia is rather interesting. The story reads in the Washington Post, the U.S. intelligence and law enforcement agencies are investigating what they see as a broad, covert Russian operation in the United States to sow public distrust in the upcoming presidential election. The story goes on to read, and I think this is really the key in all of it. The official caution that the intelligence community is not saying it as definitive proof of such tampering by the Russians in our elections or any Russian plans to do so. So my question is, why is this even a story? I'm talking about it because I think that this is being pushed by the Clinton campaign. Now, that's my opinion. And I also think that it's giving Donald Trump a real opening to work against Hillary Clinton.
Here's the thing. That might have just been Ed's thinking at the time. But the book Shattered kind of gets across that that was their strategy, at the very least after the election. I suspect it was their strategy before the election, but definitely after the election, the book Shattered names, extremely so, that the Clinton campaign pushed this notion of Russia hacking or Russia helping Donald Trump, Russia collusion, in order to deal with their own failings. They didn't necessarily want to come up with this thing that they lost on their own merit. So, Russia hacking. Hillary Clinton failing became Hillary Clinton failing with a slight caveat of with Russian hacking. Ed is right. This is 2016. This is before the election. What I love about this is Ed is right in real time. We're all ambiguous. There's no way for us to know the actual world around us. We have this idea of the world, of what the world is. We're all to some degree wrong. People like to have this idea that their world is solid. Their world is not solid. The world is, there's subjectivity in every corner of the stuff. So when Ed is giving this, Ed is not giving this from the standpoint of absolute truth and absolute knowledge. Ed is giving this from the standpoint of, this is what it seems like is taking place. And he's doing it in real time. That's what makes it that much more badass, because Ed was right. Ed was right. Ed was absolutely right. Let's keep going. I love it. I love it when a man is right.
Objective reporting is what? When someone goes on the record, and if you've got somebody going on the record saying that we don't have definitive proof, then I guess I'm kind of, as a journalist, want to know, where's the story then? Who's going to go on record saying that this is what's happening? Hillary Clinton today on her airplane talking to the press now says that she is very concerned about this.
The first question is about the Russians and do I think they're trying to help Trump? I often quote a great saying that I learned from living in Arkansas a lot of years. If you find a turtle on a fence post, it didn't get there by accident. I think it's quite intriguing that this activity has happened around the time Trump became the nominee. And look.
Okay, now hold it right there. This activity has happened, well, but the intelligence source has no definitive proof that it's happening, and no one can connect it definitely to Russia, whether it be the DNC hack or anything else that's going on. It's almost, and then it goes on to say that, but even the hint of something impacting the security of our election system would be of significant concern. Well,
here's the thing. I just want to make a small comment about media itself. Media itself, mainstream media, what they consider to be the mainstream is by definition just the mainstream. It's what the most money and everything else is behind. The story doesn't necessarily have to be true. The narrative doesn't have to be true. What they're telling you doesn't have to be true. It's just the mainstream. Anything that deviates from that mainstream, the mainstream doesn't like it because the mainstream wants to be the center and the main thought. And so anything else that deviates from that is wrong thought. It's bad, it's off, your conspiracy theory, etc., etc., etc. But the mainstream narrative is only just the narrative. There's nothing making that narrative true. There's nothing making that narrative right. There's nothing even making that narrative logically consistent, with the exception of just a large amount of money put behind that specific narrative. In Britain, they have D-notices that even keep the press from saying certain things. They're not forced to do it, but oftentimes they do comply with that particular notice. In the United States, you just have this kind of groupthink atmosphere. The Clinton campaign pushed this narrative and the press assiduously ran with it. The reality of it and the truth of it didn't matter. And what they looked into made it somewhat self-consisting or self-moving. It was almost like a perpetual motion machine. Clinton says this, the media gives it some level of credibility, off to the races. And because of the incentives and the drives that are built into it, because of the mainstream kind of thought thing, they just run with it. Do you believe that there will be ever any point where the mainstream media will come back and say, you know what, we were wrong? Our bad. How many times have mainstream media come back and said they were wrong when they were absolutely wrong? It's very few and far between. Oftentimes it would have to be something dramatic and big. Even for WMDs. I don't necessarily think most of them came back and said, okay, we fucked up royally on this. We were completely wrong. We got it completely wrong. We're ashamed and everything else. Because the fact is, when the next war came around with the next WMDs, the serious stuff, they were just as obliging. They ran with the narrative. They were complete stenographers. And they never looked under the scenes to make sure the story was absolutely accurate, true, or whether even the actions of the United States was legal. Mainstream media is just the narrative. It doesn't have to be true. Let's keep going.
Well, there's a real revelation for you. And the official goes on to say that it's key to our democracy that people have confidence in our election system. It's almost as if we're being set up for a steal. There's a lot of different ways to view this. I revere this person's opinion. Katrina Vanden Heuvel, editor, part owner of The Nation magazine. Katrina, great to have you with us.
Thank you, Ed. I think we're witnessing some media malpractice and some political malpractice, and we've talked about this before, but it's against the backdrop of a new and more dangerous Cold War with Russia. But we're seeing the resurrection, Ed, of tactics. You've seen them before. It's dangerous terrain. You know, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even the 90s, central to American political discourse has been trying to tie your political opponents to Russia, to demonizing Russia as the ultimate evil. And I think what we're witnessing, and listen, the nation believes Trump's bigotry, his visceral contempt for immigrants, Muslims, faxing women, make him unfit for office. But you attack him on a debate, a big, serious debate, not tying him to the Kremlin, which will not permit a serious debate we need about U.S.-Russian relations.
You have a problem. You have a problem. How do you do that? You're Hillary Clinton. You have a political problem. Understand what I'm saying to you. She calls it political malpractice. It was political malpractice for Hillary Clinton to be running in a general in the first place because she cheated in the election. What does political malpractice mean? Are there some bounds that are off from the standpoint of politics? Meaning, is there something from a political standpoint that I am not allowed to do in order to win the race within the bounds of the electoral system? Meaning, I think Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party cheated in the primaries. I would say it's political malpractice because she cheated in the primaries in order to get out the primaries. Is it political malpractice to bring up this idea of some kind of foreign agent engaging in your politics? It depends on what you believe the bounds of politics are. What do you do to win a political race when the presidency is at stake? Not just that, what do you do if your name is Hillary Clinton to win that race? Because you have other problems. How do you have an honest debate with Donald Trump? The world is looking for something new. Meaning people are literally in this thing. Obama said hope and change. The people didn't get their hope and change. In 2012, they thought it was a better option than Mitt Romney, so they stayed with the sitting president. You have a new opportunity. How do you deal with that when you're the same old and the people are looking for something fundamentally different? What argument can you make when the public thinks roundly that you're liars? Democrats may like you, but the rest of the public think roundly that you're lying to them. The last guy screamed at the top of his lungs about hope and change. Great. He didn't deliver. He didn't even try to deliver. It wasn't even close. It wasn't he tried and failed. He didn't even try. He was the same old. Now, you come into this office, everybody knows exactly who you are. Everybody has this understanding of what it means or what Hillary Clinton is, whether it's true or not. Everybody has this round understanding of what you are. You're a known quantity. And that's a political baggage. That's a problem because the majority of the public dislikes you intensely. How do you get past that? How do you win that? Do you know what I mean? How do you get through that? You have this thicket where most of the public thinks you're detestable. They dislike you immensely. You have the other public who the guy ran on hope and change, who was a Democrat, didn't deliver, meaning he promised these magnificent things and in no way even tried to deliver those things. And you, who are already trusted, already disliked, is now in that office and you're telling people, yes, I'm going to go for $12, $15 an hour. Yes, I've been pulled to this. And yes, I'm going to do something about colleges. Yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. But the entire time you're annoyed that people are aggravating you about this. You're annoyed that you have to run into the entire process. You're annoyed, or at the very least it looks like you're annoyed, that you're even in the race and that people are asking you questions and that people are having doubts about you. You seem to be annoyed. Why don't people just make me president? Why don't people just make me president? Why do I have to lower myself in this way? Hillary Clinton. I'm owed this office. Look, the problem that Hillary Clinton faces, nobody believed her. She was untrustworthy. Regardless of what she was going to promise, nobody believed her. The Democratic Party had burned their brand with Obama to some degree. Not that they disliked Obama, but the brand itself, if that makes sense. You had this other situation where Trump is brand new. He's not pushing hope and change, but he's pushing something similar to hope and change. And if he can get enough of the intermediates, meaning the independents, he's going to win it. As Hillary Clinton, people don't believe you on jobs. They don't believe you on the environment stuff. They don't believe you from the standpoint of college or education. They don't believe any of this stuff. They think you're status quo. Obama gave 95% of the wealth to the top 1%. They suspected that you were going to do the same. What you do in this case is you try to bring something else that tries to make it matter more. Meaning, I'm not necessarily going to run on me. I can't run on me because people don't like me. I need to run on this other person being such a maniac that you don't have a choice but to vote for me. That's the strategy that you went with. That's the strategy you ran with. Russia was just another plank in that particular strategy of you can't trust this person's racist, sexist, horrible. He's going to eat your babies. He's going to kick your puppies. He's going to do horrible fucking things to America. He's a Russian agent. He's a Russian plant. Russia's going to intercede, etc., etc., etc. You can't run on you. You have to run on how horrible the other person is. From a political strategy point, that's what you do. The question becomes, is that political malpractice? That depends on what you mean by political malpractice. What's beyond the scale, or what's beyond the pale from a political standpoint? If you're looking back at American history, Richard Nixon was able to go behind the scenes in order to get the war in Vietnam continued, because he thought he had a better chance of winning it when he ran in that race. Nixon did win that race. Nixon did prolong that war. LBJ said it was treasonous what Nixon did in order to keep that war going. And you find Nixon saying he has some secret plan to win the war, keeping the war going and shafting the president's deal, LBJ's deal, to try to end that war, believing that if the war is going and I'm telling the public I have a secret plan to win the war, then they're going to put me in that office. Meaning, if that war ends, my political strategy is not going to work and not going to have legs. Is it political malpractice for Nixon to go behind the scenes to gut the president trying to put a peace deal together just so he can get into that office, knowing he has a better chance of getting into that office if the war is still going on? It's illegal. It's a political malpractice. John Kerry has just did the same thing, meaning going behind the scenes to try to keep the Iran deal going, as opposed to trying to get it gut. But fundamentally, it's the same or similar to what Nixon did in this case. I guess what I'm asking is, what does it mean to have political malpractice? What are the bounds from the standpoint of politics in order to stay in an office or get into the office? I'll leave that up to the viewer. I have my own ideas, but I leave it up to you. It's such a flexible and subjective thing that calling it political malpractice, I don't know what that means. If you were in a better society where you trusted your political leaders, then that's different. I have a much easier bounds of saying what's political malpractice and not. In this case, I do not. It's screaming hope and change political malpractice when you have no intention of even trying to deliver any level of hope and any level of change. And you know goddamn well that the people believe or have their idea of what hope and change means is something drastically different than what you attempted to do in that office. I don't know. I'll leave it up to the person to make their choices of what's political malpractice. Let's keep going.
To be pro-Russian or pro-Putin, that's not the issue here. It's sober realism to understand that we need a partner in Russia to resolve the Syrian conflict, nuclear proliferation, combating terrorism, climate. But Hillary Clinton, and I'll stop here, but what worries me is I've always believed that you govern in the way you campaign, and what she's doing now and her team is inflaming the public by telling them that Russia is behind, and we don't know this. The intelligence community doesn't know if it's behind these hacks of voting systems, but telling them Russia's the enemy. They have domestic agents in the United States. Anyone who's a critic of the Clinton campaign may have ties to Russia. This has dangerous long-term implications for, you know, how the American media, the American people, the American government are going to work with Russia, expect the U.S. government to react to Russia.
And, you know, the fair-minded independent voters who don't have a dog in the fight just want a leader, just want someone to steady the ship for America and be in a progressive nature to move the country forward. I don't think this helps her a bit. And the latest CNN poll shows independent voters are starting to swing towards Trump at a pretty sizable margin, 49 to 29%.
Again, this conversation is taking place in September 2016. Ed is right. Ed is right. And Ed is like, this doesn't seem to be working. I mean, independent voters are clearly swinging to Trump in this. Let's keep going. Ed is right.
Now, you know what I think, Ed? I think it's so true. I think, you know, there's this view that I think this is an elite discussion, alarmist, fanning the flames. I think millions of people out there, they don't feel they have a dog in this fight. And I think what we're seeing is a failed bipartisan foreign policy, the elite failing to reckon with their own responsibility in creating a situation that led to Trump, and this ginning up of these alarms is deflecting attention from the big, serious debate we need. I mean, we got a rigged, political, corrupt system. And, we're not having these big debates. Instead, it's about Trump and Russia.
And here's what I don't understand, Katrina. This is going to get the attention. This is going to get the chatter in the sound culture of the country. Instead of the health care, instead of the equal pay for women, instead of all of the important issues that the progressives want seriously addressed in the next, session of Congress.
Ed, that's the point. That's the point. They're not doing it for shits and giggles. They're doing it because it blocks everything else. Do you honestly believe that status quo Hillary Clinton wants to do any of that stuff? She doesn't want to deal with this populist stuff pushing her in a particular way. She doesn't want to deal with it at all. The whole point of using Russia is to suck up all the air out of the room. think about what has taken place from the standpoint of politics over the last 2 years. After the election, you heard Sanders do a peep about, Medicare for all or something else. But the overwhelming majority of the chatter, overwhelmingly, has been about Russia. It has sucked all the air out of the room, and anything else that has been on the main agenda, with the exception of every so often Trump doing a tax cut, or Trump trying to kill, something, or trying to destroy some policy, and the stuff that they're doing behind the scenes. The overarching chatter has been Russia. Overarching chatter has been Russia. And what I suspect is, what Ed is talking about, if Hillary Clinton would have gotten elected, you would have positioned all of these people to be antagonistic towards this other country. This is why I don't believe Hillary Clinton winning that election was a safer bet. I think it would have been a more, let's say, a more dangerous scenario, because she had already positioned a public, or at the very least a rabid Democratic base, to be antagonistic towards that country. Let's keep going. And by the way, Republicans would have went along with her on this. This would not have been something that they would have pushed back on. They would have went along with her in the same way that the Republicans have gone along with this Russian nonsense. Now, there's been a few, don't get me wrong, Nunez and some of the other guys have been against it, but many of them have, for the most part, toed the line with the Russia stuff. Maybe they felt like they didn't necessarily want to push back against the win, whatever, they toed the line. Ed is right. I would make the point that it's not that, oh my God, this is going to suck up the air in case Clinton wins, because keep in mind, from their standpoint, they're living in a world where they're assuming that Clinton has the best chance of winning the race. So he's like, this is going to suck all the air up out of any populist agenda. That's the point. That's the point. That's always been the point with this Russia nonsense. Suck the air out of the room and use it to attack lefties, saying that if you're doing this kind of lefty stuff, then somehow you're this kind of Russian plan and Russia was pushing you and all sorts of stuff. Let's keep going. Ed is right. That's what I'm saying. Ed is absolutely right. Keep going.
And also in the next presidency.
This country, Ed, you talk about this every day. This country faces serious challenges, and we need a big debate about real things. Now, I don't trust a lot of the polls coming out, but there's a poll out today showing that Hillary Clinton's not getting that bump coming out of August. And part of it, I think, Ed, is that she hasn't been able to make the case to the Obama surge voters, to the base, that they need to show up to vote for her. She needs to be talking about bold, progressive change, the issues that animated the Bernie Sanders campaign, and not out there, pivoting, the chasing Republicans and white moderates. If I have to read about another neocon signing on with her campaign, these are people who brought us the debacle of Iraq.
Yeah.
We need a different politics. We don't need a new Cold War politics. I'm not sure what it is in the water that is leading her to double down. And, finally, Ed, one thing that just makes me laugh, if not weep, the talk about the integrity of our voting system, right? Mm-hmm. Come on. The real threat to our voting system is the Republican assault on voting rights, and also that we've never fully invested in securing a secure voting system. You've got online voting, electronic voting systems are not secure. It's as if we don't really care enough about the reliability of our elections, and now we're going to blame the Russians?
Well, they don't. No, they don't. Think of it this way. If you've been operating with the system for God knows how long, and you know that you can to some degree game the system, so Republicans can say this Operation Crosscheck, and they come up with this non-voter nonsense in order to keep people from the polls. If Democrats use similar tactics, keeping people, shutting down certain polling locations, or in some cases, the thing in New York where hundreds of thousands of people were kicked off the rolls against federal law, against state law, and the only thing that happens is somebody gets a slap on the wrist. Do you realize that a few weeks ago, New York was having issues where people who were registered to vote for God knows how long was just not able to find their voter registration? The system itself, the city itself, did not have the voter registrations of all these people. You slap these people on the wrists as opposed to actually putting people in prison. No, we're not serious about our voter systems. The electronic voting systems, do you realize they don't even allow some of those systems in other countries because of how vulnerable those particular systems are? If we cared about our voting systems, we would do something about our voting systems. We don't. We don't. So I would make the point that if we cared, we do something about it. Put it this way. they gave $80,000 or $80 billion to the military at a whim. Are you telling me that the United States government, if it wanted to, if there was some kind of real political will in Congress to actually do something about the voting systems, that they could say, look, we're going to give $60 billion to the military, and we're just going to take $20 billion to give to make sure our voting systems are secure? They could do it. They don't. They don't because they fudge their way into office oftentimes, and they don't necessarily want to change the system that they made themselves use at one point to fudge their way in the office. That's my thought. I could be wrong, but I do believe that if they had the potential to, if they wanted to do something about it, they could. If they don't do anything about it, then they don't want to do anything about it. Let's keep going. I take them at their word.
It's far-fetched, and it means nothing to anybody across the country. It really doesn't. And going into that voting booth is what it's all about, based on issues. I'll give you a perfect example, and I've talked about this in the past. I personally, we all have our personal hot buttons.
Yep.
I don't care about Trump's taxes. I know he's a billionaire. I mean, the IRS will take care of him if there's something wrong. I really don't care about Hillary's emails. I mean, what I care about is, what are you going to do as president of the United States?
Ed's wrong on that. Ed's dramatically wrong on that. Like, he's completely wrong on that. If Ed Schultz wants to come onto the show to discuss why and how wrong he is on that very specific point, I know this was 2 years ago, so it's a moot point. I care about what's in Trump's taxes, and I care about what's in Hillary's emails. I care about what's in Hillary's emails because she can tell you anything. Like, it's one thing she comes out, and the woman is the most untrustworthy person in this country from the standpoint of the polling. She can tell you anything. This thing of, well, I'm not going to tell you what's in my Wall Street speeches. Why not? Why not? What did you tell them that you couldn't tell us as the American population? And what you were telling them was made the point of, I'm here for you, not necessarily here for the American public. Now, you could say, I already knew that. But I think that gets it across in stark terms in ways that you don't necessarily get across with just thinking it. There's a difference in what you're thinking about somebody versus what is actually real. The emails are objective reality. This obsequiousness to Wall Street, the way in which she was talking about this kind of trans-Pacific partnership, saying that we're going to get back to the deal after this stuff with the public last night. No, I want to know about that. I want to know about that. And as for Trump's tax returns, if he's done something grossly illegal and is going to get into office and cut taxes, I want to know. I want to know if the rules and the deals that he's going to cut taxes on is not purely going to be purely for his own interests. Yes, it's going to be for other plutocrats. But it's Donald Trump, as president, going to do something in that office that allows him to magnificently get rich off of? Yeah, I kind of want to know. I want to know. I disagree with Ed on that. I want to see both. But let's keep going.
I couldn't agree more, Ed. I mean, listen,
healthcare is one issue.
You know, Bernie Sanders got criticized in, I guess, the first debate when he said enough. You know, come on, enough with Hillary Clinton's emails. What got forgotten was what he then said, which is, you people are fixated on these emails. You're not looking at the hollowing out of the middle class.
Yep.
Millions living in poverty. Large questions about whether this country's still a democracy or an oligarchy. Come on, let's look at the big issues. This country deserves a big and serious debate. Now, part of that debate should be what should U.S.-Russian relations look like? The moment you link anyone who says, hey, we need a new relationship, what's wrong with partnering? You say they're a Trump supporter or they're, pro-Russian. No, it's sober realism.
Yeah.
And it's for the sake of national security and this country's future that we think anew. Yeah. We don't need new Cold Wars with Russia, with China. That's not what people in this country seek. And so I think it's important to raise these questions and not get demonized, which I think happens too often in the debates, in the way the media is stirring up the pot, and certainly the Clinton campaign, too. And they need to refocus, Ed.
They are.
They need to refocus. They need to refocus on what matters to millions of people in this country who, like, I will say, President Obama, his position was, why would we arm, some lethal weapons to Ukraine? That's not in our vital interest, especially at a time when we need money back home to rebuild. That is not pro-Soviet, pro-Russian, pro-Putin. That is just common sense that I think the Clinton campaign would be wise to listen to.
Bullshit. That's bullshit. That's bogus. I mean, no, he didn't necessarily arm the Ukrainians, but he was perfectly okay with arming Syrians, or at the very least sending weapons and terrorists into that country, knowing that country was aligned with Russia. No, he didn't arm Ukrainians, fair enough. But I'm just saying, he did the shit in Syria, so...
And finally, Katrina, Bernie Sanders now jumping into it. He worked over the Labor Day weekend supporting Hillary Clinton, and he says on every issue, hands down, it's Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump. He's been kind of, since the convention, off to the beach, so to speak, I guess.
He's been neutered. The word you're looking for, Ed, is neutered. They neutered Bernie Sanders after the convention, and he's been running around screaming about Clinton. Ed is being nice. The term is neutered. They pulled his testicles down and cut them off, and he's been running around with a very high voice afterwards. That's what Ed is saying. Let's keep going.
I don't know how else to put it, but his role in the last 63 days, how vital is it?
It's vital. I would say he's not been at the beach. He's been working hard on a book that's going to come out at the end of the year. You know that. Listen, he is speaking truth. Got to defeat Trump, elect Clinton, because in that you will secure the kind of movement, the genuine populism that Bernie Sanders spoke so eloquently to. Build a movement electing, progressives at every level, from sheriff to school board, but then also hold, Clinton accountable to the promises she made in 2016. We did have the most progressive Democratic Party platform.
Now she's speaking nonsense. This is the editor of The Nation. She is a Democrat after all. She may be to the left as a Democrat, but she is a Democrat after all. Nonsense! Nonsense, Katrina. You can come on to the show if you want to have that conversation. That's nonsense. I've heard her speaking to Nomiki Kantz. Nonsense. You're speaking nonsense. It is not truth that they need to get Hillary Clinton elected. And you've just said that they've motivated all of these Russian, these hillbots to be antagonistic towards that country. What do you think happened if Clinton would have gotten elected, pushing this Russian narrative? The Russian narrative wouldn't have gone anywhere. The Russian narrative still would have been there. What do you think would have been the end result of all of these Democrats screaming at the top of their lungs about Russia, all of these Democrats in office still talking about Russia? They might not have been as motivated by the fact that you lost, but you understand that those people would have still been there and still been antagonistic towards that country. Nonsense. Utter nonsense. Also, what do you think happens after 2016 when Hillary Clinton gets elected? We're not standing arm in arm with Democrats on this. Ultimately, the Democratic Party would have towed whatever line Hillary Clinton wanted to tow, meaning she has no tether at all. She can do whatever she wants. And you're telling me in 2020, when she's running against Ted Cruz, what does it mean to hold her accountable? Hold her accountable how? How? How do you do that now that she's in office? What you're saying is nonsense. In 2020, Ted Cruz would have been on that ballot. Katrina, assume for the moment that Clinton gets in office. She doesn't do squat that people want. Let's say she puts troops in Syria. Let's say not only does she get us into another Cold War, but she gets into an almost hot war early on when she tries to put a missile defense shield illegally in a country that's not the United States. Explain to me, what do you believe is going to take place? Say she privatizes Social Security like her husband wanted to do with Newt Gingrich. Say she does all this stuff. Say she revitalizes the Trans-Pacific Partnership. There's one. Say she says, look, I changed a letter in the document, and I even changed a word for you people in this document. And now I'm going to sign this document. In 2020, she's against Ted Cruz. You know who'd be the first one on media, be it television, radio, YouTube, or something else, saying that you must vote Hillary Clinton? Katrina. She would be the first person who's saying you still need to vote for Hillary Clinton over Ted Cruz because he's just so gross, he's disgusting, that's the only choice, etc., etc. What does it mean to hold her accountable if you have no influence in the political process because you're stuck facing maniacs in one election after the next? You have no capacity to hold any of your political leaders accountable if you're always stuck in the process of voting for that political leader. You in this election, you right here in this radio show, said two very different things. It is dangerous that what they're doing, she didn't change suit. She wasn't going to change suit. She had no reason to change suit. But she's the only person to vote for, and Bernie Sanders, a newly vote Bernie Sanders with an extraordinarily high voice, is out there pushing for her now because she's the only choice. And yet, you're supposed to hold her accountable. How do you hold her accountable if she's the only choice? She's apparently going to be the only choice in 2020 again. How do you hold her accountable when she is consistently, supposedly, the only choice? Holding them accountable means they have the potential to fail. They have the potential to lose. Meaning, you, groups of you, need to get across to them that they can lose. Solidarity of no is what you're talking about in holding them accountable, where you will be completely against me saying solidarity of no, meaning you yourself also have been neutered. There's nothing that you can do. You can bitch, you can moan, you can complain, you can cry, you can do all this stuff. But at the end of the day, you're going to go out and you're going to vote Hillary Clinton, and you're going to get on your radio shows and tell people to vote Hillary Clinton. What doesn't matter what Hillary Clinton does. You have no power in this process, and you're wrong. You're dramatically wrong, and you come on the show and have a conversation about it if you want. Let's keep going.
Hold her accountable, build the next generation of progressive leaders, and try to continue to engage the young people who, overwhelmingly were inspired, passion by Bernie's campaign. He's doing the right thing. You and I had to talk a lot of people down in those last weeks who believed Bernie wouldn't stay true to his promise, but he always said he'd support the winner of the primaries, the nominee of the party, and he understands the need to, to defeat Trump and build the progressive movement.
Katrina Vanden Heuvel, excited to have you on TV tonight. I appreciate it.
I like Ed. When Ed was on MSNBC, I was somewhat of a fan of his show. I was somewhat of a fan of his show. I've always liked Ed per se, but it was one of those things where they started moving the show around and everything else. Ed is right. And if you notice, when they were talking about this, Ed started laughing at a very specific point where they were talking about, Bernie Sanders is going out there supporting Clinton, and Bernie Sanders sounds a little different. He was neutered. Call it what it is. You're trying to make it nice. It's not nice. It wasn't nice. Him going out saying Hillary Clinton was going to do this or Hillary Clinton backed this or that. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Oh, jeez, we have the right many people. Hillary Clinton thought Trump would hang his campaign that turned out to be fake news. If you want to hit him where it hurts, not super rich, failure to father. Balthazar 228. That was fake. NOOSE. That was fake news. Hillary Clinton stays because she still has money to make the donors to please. If only there was a way for constituents to override the individual votes of their representatives. That's an interesting point. That's called democracy. Balthazar. Let's see, what's the last one? Hillary Clinton uses classist projection claiming Trump is a Russian bot when in fact she's a Russian bot. BOUGHT. She's populist. 100% of her donors approve in the polls. I love that. 100% of her donors approve what she's doing in the polls. That's hilarious. That's fucking awesome. Let's see. Bernie was shackled by a suicide gerbil. Badger Damon. I don't know what a suicide gerbil is. Let's see. Chris Kroll. The true Democrats need to stay, and the closet Marxists need to start their own party and take rhinos with them. Oh, Republicans, they name only with them. Fair enough. Jeremy Scott, hold Clinton accountable after you elect her. That's the most retarded thing ever. Jeremy Chase. That's what they keep saying, though. Put her in that office and then try to hold her accountable once she's in the office. And it's like, but she's in office. She can do whatever she wants. And then the next election comes around and they say, you got to vote for Hillary Clinton. You got to vote for Hillary Clinton. You got to vote for Hillary Clinton. And it's like, yeah, but how do you ever hold the person accountable if the person always has a lock in that office because you always believe that you should vote for the person? It's nonsense. It makes no logical sense at all. And yet, that's what people do. Jenny Lynn, so we should just deny reality, keep doing the same thing over and over again that we know it doesn't work. Okay, then, yeah, right. It's nonsense. It's stupid. I think it's stupid thinking. This is the stuff that what's his name? Sam Cedar likes to put out. This is the stuff that Tom Hartman likes to put out. Always vote for the same person over and over again. Status quo 101. And it's like, but Cedar would add this extra thing. Cedar and his work wife would add this extra thing of, but we're trying to get leftist policies. And we're trying to end capitalism and all this other nonsense. It's like, yeah, you end capitalism by doing the exact same thing over and over again. That's great. Tara Thralls. John Smith, I see your point, however. Everyone who's still a Democrat is a direct threat to progressives forming a single powerful majority. They've proven they have no moral compass, period. Tara Thralls. Oh, that's a little strong. I understand what you're getting at, though. Essentially, these people's virtues are tethered to the party, not necessarily to the actual things that they say they care about. So somebody says they care about health care, but the party itself doesn't. And it's like, okay, how are you still with the party when that party doesn't necessarily hold your ideals? And you go across the board. War, poverty, all that stuff. And they would say, yes, we want to get to the same place, but we're trying to go about it in a different way. But it's like, but the way you're trying to go about it has no chance of success. They don't agree with you. They don't only like you. They're cheating you all throughout the country. And the only thing that they like about you is that you'll vote for them. It's like the political abuse spouse. They'll beat you, slap you, and everything else, but they love the fact that you make them a ham sandwich after they've coked up and, had an overdose on heroin. It's like, come on. Garden Gnome. Harlan, next up, a Progressive Voice video from 2005. Progressive Voice is an infant. It will be... All right, so, look, I get joked because I made a video going after Progressive Voice because he attacked Caitlin Johnson. Now, he shouldn't have attacked Caitlin Johnson. Let's be honest. And even to some degree, it was a slap at door in making that video. I made a video, I was like, shut the fuck up. Now, I didn't say shut the fuck up. I kind of made this point that he didn't know what he was talking about. Gardnome jokes me about this because he's like, dude, you're punching an infant. Now, Gardnome and other points have said, if that infant put his gloves on, that infant is fair game. I didn't agree with that one. So, and I don't think I really hit him. In fact, I did feel bad about doing that video, so fair enough. Jesus, coke and heroin, my dude. Fletcher Daniels. Fletcher, I'm making this point that it's like it's the political equivalent of an abused spouse. You have somebody like the Democratic Party has gotten to the point where it understands that progressives, lefties, are so terrified of Republicans that they can do whatever they want. I don't have to give you anything in the political context. Why do I have to give you squat? You're terrified of the boogeyman at the door, and as long as I keep away the boogeyman just with my presence, it's enough. So for labor, I don't have to do anything for labor. I don't even really have to represent labor. I give you nice platitudes. I say things about it. But at the end of the day, the people who I'm representing are the people who are putting money in my pocket. And that is the plutocrats. In the plutocratic class, I am there. I am representing their interests, even though I'm saying certain things to you. The political thing is, I must say certain things to you because at the very least, I want to give you the appearance that I'm talking in your particular interest or in your particular way, while at the same token, the people who I'm actually representing are the people who are putting money in my pocket. You have dollars and pitchforks. Make your choice. Progressives in this mix know these people are being bought. You know it. You absolutely know it. And in knowing these people are bought and knowing these people are bribed, you can look at the money that these people are getting shoved in their pockets. You could see it. You still take this thing of, well, I'm stuck with the Democratic Party. I'm stuck with the Democratic Party. I'm stuck with the Democratic Party. That woman is on there, anti-war, wants to do things about poverty, and yet is still saying, vote Hillary. Vote Hillary. I want to be at the place that a lot of the lefties be, but vote Hillary. A lot of them are like that. They've hitched their wagon to the Democratic Party. Labor hitches its wagon to the Democratic Party. Lefties, blacks, Hispanics, all of these groups. And what they've forgotten or what they've missed at this point is it is not a co-equal relationship. You're not in this particular thing with these two equal parties where both equal parties are pushing on the apparatus or pushing on the party to get things done. Nonsense. That is not the situation to which you find yourself. You find yourself in a situation where you are the weaker partner. You have nowhere else to go. You have nowhere else to go. That's the motto. You have nowhere else to go. So at the end of the day, you can bitch, you can moan, you can complain, and all this other stuff, but you have nowhere else to go, so vote Hillary. Is she going to give me what I want? No. But at the very least, she'll keep the boogeyman out. And that's where you're at. People are so terrified of the Republicans that they end up voting Democrat, not because they love the Democrat, but because they're terrified of the Republican. I'm terrified of Donald Trump, so here's my vote, Hillary Clinton. I'm terrified of this person, so here's my vote for this person. It runs the gambit. You're in a political system where fear and terror is the thing that motivates and compels people to vote, as opposed to actually voting for the person you want. That gets you nowhere. As long as the Democratic Party fully understands that you have nowhere else to go and they can compel your vote through fear, they will do that as a political strategy because it works as a political strategy. Until it changes, that's what you get. If constituents can veto individuals, yeah, got that one. Let's see. So, that's what I'm getting at. Exception as identity issues, those are allowed and used as a shield to deflect from failures. They don't cost the donors a thing. Yes. Yeah. So you can have commercials with blacks, Hispanics, Indians, Native American, all that stuff. They love it. Those are customers. We like customers. Doesn't cost me one iota if I'm talking about identity. Oh, I love this darkie. I can hug every darkie I see. I can kiss every black and Hispanic baby from here to California. Doesn't cost my donors one iota. I can give you lip service. Doesn't cost you one iota. You start talking about, well, wait a minute. These people are in desperate shapes of poverty. I mean, aren't we going to do something about... we don't talk about economics. That's economics, sir. Yeah, I know, but the economics directly affects that person's, life. I mean, aren't we going to... Especially if that person being African American, this idea of higher unemployment, higher poverty, like desperate levels of poverty. Yeah, we just want to talk about identity. We don't really want to talk about the intersection between identity and politics. That's not us. That's not us. We just want to talk about identity. We love to talk about identity. And we can use this identity thing to call everybody racist and sexist and everything else if they don't jump into this particular party that does identity. We are in desperate need of another party. I can walk and chew gum at the same time. I can talk and defend identity while at the exact same token also going after this thing of economics and the interplay between economics and identity themselves. I can do that because I don't mind talking about identity. I mean, I don't mind talking about both. You can defend identity while talking about economics. I don't want to deal with anybody that's racist or sexist or bigoted or anything else. I don't agree with it. I don't approve of it. It interferes with this idea of people being able to live their individual lives. But that being said, I'm not using that to obfuscate from economic issues. The Democratic Party does. They do. They do these tepid measures. And because the other party is the Republican Party, they act like the tepid measures that they're doing is somehow actually real or real change. It's nonsense. It's not. It's not. Tara Thralls. John Smith, that Bernie is the most popular politician in American poll was conducted in early January of 2017. Among 2,000 voters, I am so tired of people pulling out that statistic. Winkle the Bernie bro. Jamal, how do we help convince the abused spouses to leave their abusers, though? Do they have to come to that conclusion themselves ultimately? Winkle the Bernie bro. Winkle has his own show. By the way, Winkle, his show is awesome. It's fucking hilarious. Winkle, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if it's a come to Jesus moment where they just gonna hit their head on something. I hit my head on the TPP. That was the thing that kind of like, wait a minute, this guy's out here telling me that this is the most progressive legislation in the history of legislation, and this trade deal gives up U.S. sovereignty as a play against China. What the fuck? The head hit was the contradiction between what I am being told by this person who I voted for versus what I'm seeing with my own eyes. And what I'm seeing with my own eyes is what he's saying is bullshit. That was part of the wake-up call. Like it was literally information and allowing the information to seep in. Your question is, how do you allow that information to seep into people who are not in what we would consider to be the state of consciousness of wokeness? I don't know, man. I don't have an answer. I mean, I do this show with hopes that a wayward Democrat will stumble in and they will be like, holy shit, this guy's right. Or will stumble in on one of the other channels and be like, holy shit, this guy is right, or that woman is right, or this person is right. Even if they don't necessarily agree with everything I say, that they would at least say, he kind of has a point here, but I'm not ready to give up the ghost. Or he kind of has a point, but I still like Obama because Obama sings very well. Even if you can get in the door, if like you can get your foot in the door, like the door is about to close and you put your foot in the door at the last minute to keep the door open, even then it gets you this kind of conduit into to their thinking. I don't know, Bernie. I don't know, Winky. I don't know. All we can do is continue to do our shows and hope people just kind of stumble in. It's like they're stumbling in from the bar at 2 a.m. That's all. We have no power in that sense. Our power is, this is what we think of the world. Do you agree, disagree? And hopes that somebody is going to be in the right consciousness to kind of listen to what we say one day and like, hold that shit, that guy's right. That's all we got. That's all we got. That's our power. That's all we got. Truth tellers rock, go vegan. Louis Guido. Michael Parks, brace yourselves. They're going to start pushing Biden. They are going to start pushing Biden. They are going to start pushing Biden. DC 420 LA. Richard Painter sounds more like Bernie than any Democrat. You know what's wild about that? Richard Painter is Bush's ethics attorney. Think about that shit. Bush's former ethics attorney. It's like, I think I used a comparison of Chris Christie's diet aid or something like that, dietitian. It's fucking amazing. That guy's made a career essentially bashing Donald Trump, and he's a Republican, but he's going to be running as a Democrat. So yeah. Jamal Thomas missed 2. No, I did. Let's wait. Let me make sure. When are we getting Debbie Does Ballots? Debbie Does Ballots. Let's see. Did I miss one? Let's see. If the constituents could veto individual votes from their representatives, it would make any votes bought by interests useless if they could be overturned. Balthazar, that's a good point, man. Like, what was it? Socialist Alternative has this thing where you can recall a particular political person. Like, if it was somebody who's in their particular political organization that's not towing the line of the group, that person could be recalled. Yeah, that would help. I mean, what you're talking about is just more so direct democracy, the ability to oversight or civilian oversight of the people who are in that office. I love that idea. I would even say the idea is somewhat necessary if we could revamp how our political process is. I don't think they would run Biden in the general Garden. Really? You don't think so? They were pushing him. They were definitely pushing him. John Smith, yeah, I agree. The Democrats need another crappy corporatist again. They would have learned, though, and field a fake progressive. Maybe you're right about that. So Kamala Harris, I thought, would definitely run. Joe Biden would potentially run. Kristen Gillibrand. I don't think Cory Booker would run or put his hat in the ring. But maybe. I think they're going to put a fake progressive. In fact, I think they need to put a fake progressive. They need somebody who can sell it better. All of these people are running around screaming that they're lefties. They're doing it for a reason. I suspect they're going to do the same thing in the primary or in the general. I mean, in the primaries. Also, showing that all of them are ditching or giving this thing that they're as if they're ditching money from corporate sources or from plutocratic sources. Even that is this kind of bone that they're throwing. See, like, see, I'm trying to be lefty. I'm trying to be a lefty. Yeah, I think you're right. Rosenfield 10, Tara, I must ask, if not Bernie or Tulsi, then who? Are you a Green supporter? Give me an option. I'm a Green supporter, personally. If it's not Sanders and if it's not Tulsi, then yeah, whoever the Green is running, pick my vote. I'm in Pennsylvania and they don't allow ballot initiatives. That sucks. Don't knock vacuum baby until you've tried it. Balthazar, that's funny. Moral superior alert. Uh-oh. Jenny Lynn, oh Lord, moral superior alert. What's the moral superior alert? Jeremy Chase, 7 Eco, your arguments are completely invalid. Okay, you guys are having an argument. That's cool. Let me find the argument. Nina Turner. I would love me some Nina Turner. I think I've said that. I think I said it all the time. I love me some Nina Turner. I do. I like Nina Turner. I've invited Nina Turner on the show, by the way. I've invited Nina Turner on the show like 3 or 4 times. For this reason. For this very specific reason. I'm going to end this because we've gone an hour. But my invite to Nina Turner on the show is very specific, and the reason why I want to invite. I love me some Nina Turner, so it's not to rough up Nina Turner. And you've seen my interviews. I'm always polite in my interviews, so it's not like even when I was going with HA, and him and I were arguing about the Israeli thing. I'm always polite in my interviews, even when I'm pushing back. But I have questions that I want her to answer. And I've never seen an interview where she's gone on and answered certain questions. And it becomes this thing of, yeah, I have questions. I have questions. Those questions don't get answered. So, Golden Silence, Jamal, can you check out Representative Eric Swalwell's stupid whiteboard explaining the Trump-Russia connection? I've never laughed so hard. All right, I'll check it out. Eric Swalwell's. That's funny. Now, I love me some Turner. So, me questioning Nina Turner is not about that. My very specific question has to do with how do you hold somebody accountable after they're in office? And after they're in office, if they're going up against somebody who you know is going to be a maniac, how do you hold them accountable? Basic question. Very simple, very basic question. I want her to answer it because I've yet to hear her answer that question. So, at some point, maybe when I hit 40,000, 50,000, Nina Turner will be like, okay, yeah, come on the show. But at 11,000, I probably don't have enough carte blanche to get her on the show. But that being said, and I'm going to end this. But Abby Martin, I hit Abby Martin up. And, you know, I throw these things out all the time. Like, just throw a line out there to see who picks up on it. Abby Martin told me to hit her up on her email. She may be interested in coming on to the show. I was like, what? Oh, that's awesome. Abby Martin is fucking awesome. Yes, she is extremely attractive, but she is also a fucking awesome reporter. And as lefty journalists go, you know, like this was a person who took the heat for Venezuela, who took the heat for what she was saying about Russia, all that stuff. The wild part about it is she's been taking a lot of heat for the Russia stuff and for her reporting on Israel, Jerusalem, and so forth. And so I sent her a tweet saying, hey, would you be interested in coming on the show to talk about these people having to go at you about this stuff? I assumed that I would not get a response, and I was wrong. Shout out for her for responding for first point. But I'm trying to see if I can get her on the show. So that would be an awesome show. I would absolutely be appreciative of it. And so we will see. We will see. Breaking the Set was badass. Yeah. Terry Hall, she is a truth-telling beast. Yes, she is. Jeffrey Pearson, Jimmy Dore invited Billy Taylor on the show. I'm not sure who Billy Taylor is. John Stossel got his ass kicked by Dr. Schultz. That's fucking hilarious. Gardenome, you hit up Abby Martin. Yes, I did hit up Abby Martin. Fucking A, I did. Jamal will probably get Hulk Hogan on first. Bob Romero. This is going into the weeds. Hulk Hogan used to be one of my favorite wrestlers. I used to love wrestling, Sunday morning wrestling. I used to love it. And I keep telling, I'm old, man. I'm like 40. I'm 40. Hulk Hogan was my favorite wrestler. Hulk Hogan would get his ass kicked. And he would still, there was this one, I don't know if you guys remember this. There used to be a wrestler, a guy called Brother Love. Brother Love was, he used to wear this white suit. And he used to be like red. He used to be all like, the skin used to be like beet red. And he would be like, I love you, like that type of stuff. And he ends up, Hulk Hogan goes to confront him. And Hulk Hogan is like just talking shit to him. And like, I'm a Hulkster, baby, and all this other stuff. And all of these brutes come out and beat the shit out of Hulk Hogan. It is the funniest shit ever. Hulk Hogan gets up, broken and beaten. Like, they take him to the hospital. He gets out the ambulance. He starts running back into the ring. It's the funniest shit ever. It is hilarious. Hulk Hogan used to be so funny. Yeah, he was one of my favorites. He was like the Hulkamaniacs and all this other stuff. Man, it was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. get Professor Guy McPherson. I'm trying to. I've sent him things. I sent one to him, and there's another guy I've tried to send it to. Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh yeah, Macho Man was awesome. Jesse Ventura, Tar Thralls. I would love to get Jesse Ventura on the show. He's also somebody who I love. Greatly doubt he'd do it. And look, some of this is my own paradigm of the world, so don't misunderstand me. In my head, it's like, who can I get on the show? And I think of it from the standpoint of, all right, it's a smaller show, but still try it. You never know. They may tell you no. And if they tell you no, so what? Just keep going. Assume the no, but still push on nonetheless. That's served me well. It served me well. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't have pushed for Lee Camp or some of the other guys. So I will try to get some of those guys on. Guy McPherson, I will send him one. I think I've already sent him one. Martin, there's another gentleman dealing with climate change or climatology. He's from University of Ottawa. He hit me back once, but I haven't heard back from the second time. I tried to come up with an interview time. But now, guys, I'm still trying. So, let's see. A dingo ate my baby. That's an awesome name. The only concern I have with Abby is she works for Telesur, which is partly funded by Venezuela, so I'm always skeptical of her Venezuela coverage. Fair enough. Richard Wolf. I've tried Richard Wolf. I've tried him. I haven't been able to contact him. I contacted Richard Wolf once. I met him face to face when we were at, I think it was the Left Forum. I asked Richard Wolf a question dealing with capitalism because my point to him was, your thing of worker co-ops. I was like, that's still capitalism. I mean, ultimately, that's still these little companies battling each other in the capitalistic space. They're not totalitarian companies, so they're not necessarily owned and controlled by individuals. But you still have this thing of companies with vested interests fighting other companies that have vested interests. The only difference becomes they become non-totalitarian. They become somewhat little democracies fighting other little democracies. And the idea that democracies don't fight each other is nonsense. Democracies fight all the time. Maybe not each other often, but democracies fight and go to war constantly. Why would that be any different in a job space? Isn't that just capitalism with this idea of larger organizations fighting each other? Richard Wolf's response to that was, well, the answer to that is longer than I could go into. That's the way he put it. And he starts talking about it in somewhat general terms. I have the video. I met him after that, asking him, hey, can I get you on my show? He says, hit me up afterwards, and I've not been able to contact him afterwards because there's always an intermediary between it. I don't know his number. I don't know his phone number. I've sent stuff off to Twitter, and the person on Twitter said, hey, I'm not technically Richard Wolf. I just handle this particular site. It's like, oh, fuck. This is like, how do you get in contact with the guy who always has a buffer? So, yeah. So you should try out Steam It, DTube, and DLive. Not sure what DLive is. DTube, they're pretty cool. I've stopped paying attention to wrestling after Finger Poke of Death. The Finger Poke. It was so comical. Like, it was so comical. It was awesome. Do you know, people today take it for granted. At one time, people didn't know that wrestling was fake. They didn't know wrestling was fake. John Stossel gets hit in the ear when John Stossel asks him. John Stossel's like, this is fake. This is fake. He's talking to one of the wrestlers. And one of the wrestlers hand slaps him in the ear and messes John Stossel's hearing up. And to this day, if I'm not mistaken, John Stossel said his ear is off from being slapped that way. They didn't know it was fake at the time. But, right, Winky, the Finger Poke of Death is, yeah. All right, guys. So I'm going to end this. Yeah, good show. And I say that from the standpoint of Ed. I don't say that from the standpoint of myself. This is me being a thing. Good job, Ed. 2 years ago, yeah. This is pretty prescient from Ed and Katrina. No for Katrina on this whole thing of vote Hillary and everything else. But yes, on the other analysis, the moment that you stray into who you'd vote for, all the analysis goes out the window. And I think Ed is laughing because there's a point in the video where they start talking about Sanders that Ed starts laughing. And I think Ed starts laughing because he knows that what he's saying, yeah, I'll say it that way. He knows that when he's talking about Sanders and what Sanders is saying on the campaign trail is not the most truthful thing in the world. That he's trying to push Hillary Clinton, so he's not being earnest. But that being said, Ed Schultz is a fucking beast. Good job, Ed. And thank you guys for joining me today. So, If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you guys can always support the Patreon. And Balthazar, good looking out, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Debbie does ballads. Debbie does ballads. It's hilarious. All right, guys. You all have a good night. I'll see you in I don't know if I'm doing any more today. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. It depends on what I'm doing. But if I don't see you today, I'll see you tomorrow. You guys have a great Sunday.